Alright, hello everybody. Today we are going to be reviewing the first in a trilogy of movies now, Magic Mike. Now, I had never seen these movies before. I know, shocker. I guess maybe to some people out there, but it was just never one that really piqued my interest. But now that I've got a group of people that want to go see the third one in theaters, it was recommended to me that I watch the first two. So that's what I did this week, and yeah, I was actually kind of shocked that these movies had, I guess, a storyline to them, as opposed to just, the typical kind of, yeah, I don't know. I really thought it was just going to be just about, like, stripping, but I guess it did have a backstory to it of kind of the lifestyle that these guys have to live, and obviously one of them struggling with it when he brings in this new kid, and wanting to get out of it. He kind of runs like a few businesses himself, and he wants to be an entrepreneur, and he's trying to get funding for some of his businesses. And every time he goes, they just turn him down. And then some stuff gets pretty serious, and he ends up having to give most of his life savings away just to save the kid that he brought on to help, basically. So this movie is starring Channing Tatum as Magic Mike, um, or just Mike, I guess, would be his normal name. Alex Petfer as Adam, Olivia Munn Joanna, Matthew McConaughey as Dallas, who was the owner of the club who ran the show and basically all the guys. Um, so he kind of told them what performances they were going to do and so on and so forth. But I guess the business venture was supposed to be between him and Mike, and then he kind of steers the other way. The more successful Dallas becomes, the harder he is on all of the guys that do the performing. And then, oh, I know I'm going to butcher this name. Joe Magliello, Mangalio played Big Dick Ritchie, and I guess that kind of lived up to the um, film in a way. But there was no actual like nudity in this film, at least not shown on camera. Like they hid it whenever there was. Matt Bomer played Ken, Adam Rodriguez played Tito, Kevin Nash played Tarzan, and Gabriel Iglesias played Tobias. He was the DJ. Kind of odd to see Kevin Nash in these films, I think, was the biggest shock to me. Him being a wrestler, going from wrestling to a movie like that was just very different. But yeah, so Mike runs his own construction company um, with this other older gentleman. I can't remember his name, but maybe that was. Oh, I guess that must have been Sal. James Martin Kelly played Saul. Maybe that was him. And then Cody Horn played Brooke, who was Mike's love interest, like basically from the first time he saw her. And it was also um, Adam's older sister. And then when Adam gets into the business, he kind of sees like I guess the glam of it all, being obviously younger than everybody else and not being able to drink and so on and so forth, because he's only 19 when he starts performing. And Dallas sees potential in him too. So they bring him onto the crew. They call him the Kid. And then he starts getting his own acts and bringing in quite a bit of money. But then unfortunately, he gets involved in drugs, and stuff starts to go sideways when he starts selling them at a party. And Mike and him have to fight their way out of the house. Luckily, they decided to go as cops that night to do the performance at the house party for the sorority. So they were actually able to make it out of there unscathed. But yeah, basically what happens is Tobias makes this deal with him to sell this pack of, I believe it was ecstasy. And one of the girls at the sorority must have overdosed, because the boyfriend comes up and says, "Did you give my girlfriend pills?" And Adam says no. And then this fight breaks out, and it's just a huge mess. And Adam's life kind of starts to spiral downwards. But I mean, they all kind of took advantage of the system, I would say, for sure. As far as that goes, just making the money and uh, partying all the time, sleeping with multiple women. Um, and I know that Mike kind of is, it seems like he's falling in love with the one girl that Olivia Munn plays, Joanna, and then he only to come to find out that she's actually already with somebody. She has a husband, and I guess her husband is okay with her sleeping with other men. Maybe they have an open relationship. I'm not really sure what the concept is there, but he just kind of shakes Mike's hand and walks to the bathroom to say that they have a whole bunch of stuff to discuss. But there wasn't much to discuss. I guess Mike obviously had his heart broken, thinking that this girl was only really being with him, even though he had several women in his phone. Because when he opened it, he had to scroll down to her name to even find her. But I guess he kind of feels more of a connection to her than any of the other girls. But then obviously he starts to connect with Adam's sister. And Adam's sister is very stubborn in the beginning of it. She doesn't want him. She doesn't want this kind of life for Adam, and I guess that makes quite a bit of sense. But then Dallas obviously starts to kind of reel the kid in a bit and make him more the star of the show, I guess maybe. So maybe there was a sense of jealousy with Mike, I suppose. Him no longer being the star and then kind of losing a percentage of what he was supposed to get when they made it to Florida. So then Mike kind of takes it into his own hands to perform like his own sort of show, I guess, instead of doing what Dallas says. And Dallas doesn't take that very lightly, and then the whole drug thing happens, and Dallas says it looks bad on him. But then Mike comes back with, well, you get to do whatever you want, and yeah, nothing. It can only look, yeah, it's okay to look bad when you're doing it, but it's not okay when we're doing it, and it reflects on you, sort of thing, is what Mike was trying to say to him back, basically. So then Dallas tells the crew that they're going to be able to go to Florida. They're going to do this show. And did Mike? Yeah, I think Mike ended up walking out. Yeah, he did end up walking out of the show in Florida and then going back to Brooke at the end of the movie because he realized that he no longer wanted to do this. That was his only way out, was to just walk away. So kind of a crazy thing to have happen. So what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so then they just kind of sit there and talk, and yeah, I guess that was kind of the end of Brooke's story, really, because she's not even in the second movie. But it looks like she might be returning for the third one if I looked up the cast list properly. Uh, but yeah, it was just a good movie with quite a bit of funny moments, and I'm actually surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did, because I didn't really think it was going to have much of a story to it, but there was quite a bit of a backstory to it, which I did enjoy the backstory part to it and kind of the struggles with that sort of life. And I guess obviously Mike being older, he's already done this for probably a decade. So now that he's turning 30, he wants to be out of the game, right? So he's going to try to find any way to get out of it. And I guess he kind of found the right woman who was going to ground him a little bit and help him kind of transition into more of his business side of things than just being a stripper. He wants to be remembered for being more than that, right? Which, I mean, would make sense for any guy, because unless you really loved what you were doing, which I kind of got the sense from the pretty much the beginning of the movie that he really wasn't completely 100% into it. I mean, I guess I can kind of see where he was coming from when he was younger. The whole like, oh yeah, well, woohoo, look at me, I get all these women. But then as you get older, you realize that that's not really as fulfilling as you thought it was, right? Yeah. So then you kind of start to branch out into other more serious things that you could be doing other than just stripping. Not that you can't still do that on the side necessarily, but that shouldn't be your main focus, I suppose, is kind of more where Mike was coming from. He wanted his businesses to thrive and kind of do that as like a hobby type thing, which makes more sense, I guess, now that I'm really thinking about the film. And at one point, Adam overdoses, and he's not answering his phone calls from his sister Brooke, so she comes over to the house, and they find him almost dead. So then she tries to get him out, but he just keeps putting himself back in, right? Um, so yeah, it is unfortunate that that was the lifestyle he chose, and he thought it was really cool, and he thanked Mike for bringing him on and helping him out, and like, look at where I was 3 months ago, and look at where I am now, without really even realizing really what he had done to his life, Adam, unfortunately. But it is what it is. I think he just was too caught up in what was happening, and Dallas really just tweaked with his mind to make him think that he was doing like a really good job, and Dallas saw the potential in him once he started, so it was kind of a slippery slope for Adam from there on out. But I gave this movie an 8 out of 10. I thought it was really like deserving of that. Would I go back and ever watch this again? I don't know. Probably not for myself. I guess if I was sitting with a group of people and you just wanted to put on a fun movie, this would probably be not a bad pick. Um, I do like watching movies that make other people in the room uncomfortable, because it's just funnier when you're sitting in a group and people feel awkward for certain movies, which I don't understand. It's just a movie, right? Like, it's not like you're in the actual club watching anybody do anything. So anyway, I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.